There's this unfortunate, really distasteful reality in dentistry. Corporate hedge funds, whatever, are trying to stamp out franchise style relationships that are Me Too, cookie cutter, factory style relationships with patients. And in the absence of value, consumers only know discounts and price.
Hey guys, what's up? Welcome to Go Live. This is episode 23, everybody, and coming at you live on a Thursday. It's 2 p.m. here, East Coast time. I've got one of my friends, Jayme Amos, on with me. Jayme, say what's up to everybody.
Hey everybody, how's it going? Glad you're here. Glad to be here. This is going to be awesome. This is a huge honor to be able to speak here, Josh, with you and with this crew. I mean, the message that you communicate and the way you help people enhance their brand and their story and who they are and what they want to communicate to their town and to the people they serve as patients. It's really cool to be side by side with you here to serve the audience. So I'm excited to have our conversation.
Awesome, man. Well, for those of you guys who don't know, Jayme leads, CEO, one of the owners of Ideal Practices, which we're going to get into for sure. One of the premier top startup groups in the country. I mean, gosh, I feel like now whenever I hear about somebody working with Ideal, it's like, A, they're usually super solid people and just such predictable results overall. I was even impressed with that before getting to know you guys. Jayme, we first met in Jamaica at the Delivering Wow concert over my Tom shoes. You remember that?
I remember it very well. I was like, dang, this dude is dapper. He's like dressed to he's looking sweet. Yeah, I remember seeing you and Joanna. You guys were awesome and like super encouraging, optimistic, incredible people. And yeah, we're talking a little bit about Tom's shoes and brainstorming a little bit. And you're like, actually look down. I was like, what? Oh crap, look, you're wearing Tom's shoes. So
yeah, for whatever reason, I think I was standing out in the hallway. I think I was actually waiting on Joanna and you came out of the restroom and we started a conversation. I recognized you from social media. Didn't really know much about you and what you were doing then, but gosh, that was two and a half years ago, something like that. So dude, take us back to the beginning of Ideal Practices, like how that got started and what your guys' vision was.
Yeah, here, you know what? I wanted to, I totally forgot.
Yeah.
I'm not really leaving. I promise I'm coming right back. There was like, who does that? Who leaves in the middle of a live thing? I wanted to show this thing off. This is awesome. Your story is worth it.
Nice.
So this is a gift from you and Joanna. And I just, like, above everything else that we talk about today, whether it's startups, whether it's like my background and how that could serve dentists here, I just want to like totally agree with you. The reality is, like, without a story, as a practice owner, as a business owner, without a story, it's so easy to be reduced to a practice or a dentist who is chosen through discounts. And if you're a practice owner or you want to be a practice owner and you're listening to get ideas about marketing, like listen to what Josh says. The fact that he focuses and helps you craft your story is a differentiator between discounts and value. If you want to be a practice of discounts, that's cool. Like just go be that. That's easy. Just give out coupons and you're good. Or if you want to be a practice that communicates value, that listen to what Josh says, do what Josh says. What he and Joanna do through Studio 88 is awesome. And remember, as a quotable thing, in the absence of value, consumers only know discounts and price.
Yep.
In the absence of value, consumers only know discounts and price. So, John, I love what you do. This is awesome.
Thanks.
How I got started.
Yeah.
So sorry for like leaving the screen. I figured it'd be cool and worth it to.
That's so cool. No, I love it. You guys, I don't know if you talk specifically about the concept of story to your guys' clients or not, which is totally fine. But what I've recognized is when they come over and start talking to us, their story IQ, their story value is definitely high. Like most of them are like, we see something, we want to convey that, we want to be authentic to that. We're not just opening up another dental practice, we've got something different. Is that just like a byproduct of who you are reaching, or is that something you guys are coaching?
Yeah, it's a good question. There's this unfortunate, really distasteful reality in dentistry. least in my opinion, called corporate dentistry. In my humble opinion, it's bastardizing a doctor-patient relationship. Yeah. Corporate dentistry is kind of like the McDonald's-izing of dentistry, where people, corporate hedge funds, whatever, are trying to stamp out franchise-style relationships that are Me Too, cookie-cutter, factory-style relationships with patients. And I guess there's a place for that. Maybe some patients love that. But the people who I personally connect with, the doctors who I like working with, are the ones who say, wait a minute, no, like I think I want to have the control to own my own practice in a way that like represents what I stand for. Yeah. That actually like aligns with who I am as a human, not as a spreadsheet. Like maybe I'm a person with a heart and real values. Maybe even I'm a person who wants to affect my community with purpose, not just squeeze every last like nickel out of every patient interaction, which is, I think that it's just a binary choice, really. I think it's either corporate, like squeeze every last dollar. Yeah. Can I get my operatories the smallest in the country and get the spreadsheet to squeeze every last penny out of every patient interaction? Or can I build beautiful patient relationships of value, of purpose, of, in your case, of story? Yeah. So I think the reason that you and I connect well with doctors who are stepping into private practice ownership is because it's the antithesis of that distasteful alternate reality in dentistry. So yeah, I think that's probably why.
Well, so take me back to starting Ideal. What was it that you guys saw? How'd that all get started?
Yeah, I have a degree in international business. I like incredibly fortunate in terms of like business experience. I studied overseas. I've been to places like the London Economics School of Business. I've been in boardrooms at Mercedes and Credit Suisse and Nestle and Dresdner Bank, like really cool stuff. I came back to the States and I was like, that was awesome international business experience. Instead, I'm going to start my own little rinky-dink business with my cousin. Hooray! So I like did the opposite. I started this little business. I took my credit card out of my pocket and I put down over $10,000 with a credit card to start this business. It was exciting but hard. It had nothing to do with dentistry. We grew to over $1 million in our first year. It was recruiting engineers and scientific people. That business grew really quickly, and maybe about a year and a half into it, we were looking into new real estate. It was right around then that I was walking through this new real estate space that we were looking for expansion for all the new desks and employees. And I'll never forget, I was walking out of the space and like, no joke, it's like out of the movies. I'm walking out of the space, the realtor's behind me and my phone rings and I look at it and actually that's funny, my phone just started ringing right now. And it was my mom. And just like I'm about to do this person, I was like, hey, it's my mom. I'm gonna send it a voicemail. So I put her back in my pocket, but then she called right back again. Hopefully this person doesn't. And I was like, hey mom, what's up? I'm finishing up my thing. She's like, Jayme, hang on. There's been an accident. Doesn't look good. Your brother, Michael, and his fiance, Trish, they've been in an accident. You should get to the hospital as quickly as you can. So I did. My cousin raced us over there, and I found out that night that my brother and his fiance were killed by a drunk driver. It was crushingly devastating, hard for my family for a while. Losing somebody when I was 21 years old or 22 years old was hard and awful. And I think right around then I realized all the success that I've had in business. I was featured in things and admired by people and being interviewed by people. Even at this young age, I thought, oh, I've got what I thought I wanted, like this business, this so-called success. But it made me rethink everything. And for me at that moment, I thought, you know what, I'm done with this. If I ever am going to run another business, I sold that one. I'm going to make sure that it's a business of purpose, a business that matters, a business that makes a difference and stands for something even bigger than the business. In retrospect, that other business just kind of felt, I don't know, in many ways it just kind of felt empty. Maybe, the blessing in disguise of having to come to grips with a reality like that early on. So that actually led me to own a bunch of real estate, not as a business, just as investments. Through real estate and business ownership, I bumped into a buddy who introduced me to a dentist, friend of a friend, who wanted help opening a startup. So I helped him open a startup. with the premise that I had this understanding of small business and demographics and real estate. And I thought, oh, that could be interesting for a dentist. I don't know if it would work, but I could try. So I tried to combine my real estate ideas with my small business ideas for this dentist, and he took off. It was awesome. It was incredible to see how quickly he grew. And I knew at that moment I had a way to help dentists, but I still wasn't going to do it unless I could do it in a way that mattered, bigger than the service that we were offering.
Okay.
So for us, Josh, I think you and I have talked a little bit about this before. Back then, I decided if I'm going to do this startup dentist thing, I'm going to make sure that it's bigger than just what we do with our own delivery of service. So now every time we open a startup practice in the United States, we simultaneously fund 10 startup businesses in third world countries. We take some of the profits from every startup dental practice in the States, and we create nonprofit loans. They're nonprofit, we just give the money so that they can create loans in third world countries where there's no access to traditional banking, like literally like tin shack, dirt road towns where there's nothing. And they're able to get, in very remote third world parts of the world, third world countries, they're able to get access to loans to start a little business. So this is massively rewarding for me. Like the fulfillment for me and my team is through the roof, because we see that startups all across the country, when done the right way, there's a ripple effect that affects people's lives. So what I love communicating to all of our clients is, listen, you have a chance to be on a stage called your practice. This is your business. And from your stage, you have an opportunity to affect people's lives, not just in the chair, but from the stage of your practice in your town. Like it's a broadcasted message communicating to your neighbors, to your town, to your family. And if you do this the right way, you'll be a practice of values, not just discounts. You have this practice of values and purpose. If we structure it the right way, you'll be able to affect people's lives even outside the practice by the thousands.
Yeah.
So that's what I love doing. The ripple effect of startups across the world, intersecting with the ripple effect of private practice ownership for dentists in the States. So that's kind of how it all came together. And now we're really fortunate. We only accept between 50 and 100 applicants into our program per year. It's about 6 or 7 on average per month.
Yeah.
That come into our program. And so all we do now is startups and dentistry. And man, we love it. It is really special. So
yeah,
so there you go.
No, it was interesting because I wrote down a question here. I was like, why not the Mercedes and the Credit Suisse and those companies? But I actually didn't know about that story about your brother. When you lost him and his fiance, was it like something clicked? Like, was it a moment and you were like, I'm going this way now? Or was there more of a transition of just kind of a life shift through that?
Well, I moved in with my parents and, slept in my old bedroom where it's the bedroom I shared with my brother. It was super raw.
Yeah.
For me, it was as I reflected through what my brother did, like it was all over the news. It's just this beautiful heartthrob of a story. This he's 19 years old, and his fiance, they're literally pulling out of a church parking lot, turning left out of a church parking lot after serving the kids in the church youth program when they get broadsided. Like, I think for me, it was kind of like this hard reality, like punchy in the chest reality of this will end. Like, this beating heart will stop someday for some reason. And what do I want to be doing? What do I want to be leaving at that moment when my heart stops?
Yeah.
Because it's gonna. And if I have a chance to affect that reality, that future reality, if I can affect that in a way that I get to choose what's happening when I'm pulling out of my parking lot, I want to say in that. I don't want to just be cranking it out for dollars. That was a pretty empty spot for me. I mean, it was cool, like in the sense of like being on the cover of magazines and like being chased down and stuff. Like that was cool, but so I don't know if that answers that question, but
yeah, no, for sure. I believe local business is like local business changes the world, man. It's like there's a sense of, and I've said it like this, and maybe it's a little hyperbolic or dramatic, but I'm like, local business is the hope of the world. And I think sometimes like we get these things of like, we're going to change the world and it has to be this like massive thing and all these people. But I'm like, man, business owners, whether it's 3 people, 5 people, whether it's 30, whether it's 500, you're changing so many people's lives. And I know for us as a company, that's been a huge, it's been missional for us of, this isn't just dental marketing. This is about coming alongside of somebody who has a business, who has a dream, and is changing the world. It's affecting people's lives. You've kind of struck me as always being an entrepreneur. Like, has that been true? Like, when did you kind of know that about yourself?
I think it was maybe when I was 7 and I was hawking my brother's artwork for $0.25 to the neighbors, probably right around then. No, I think I've always just fallen in love with the idea of striving to create enough value in my efforts that other people will be excited to compensate me for it.
Okay.
So that might sound a little weird if you haven't thought through it before. But think about what that means. That means the creator of the value works so intensely and is so committed passionately to the value they're creating, to the product they're creating, the service they're creating. They're so passionate about this artwork that they're developing, their service, their artwork, their masterpiece. They're so passionate about it that the outside world looks at it and says, I want to be a part of that. And I'm willing to create a compensation for that. And I'm going to be thrilled about it. So though this didn't happen right when Ideal Practices started, I don't know if this would help anybody. We've distilled everything we do down to 3 letters. It's E, T, and G, letter E, letter T, letter G. ETG, my whole team knows it. Like, hey, what do we stand for, guys? ETG. What's it mean? Elite, trusted, and give. That's our whole business. Elite, trusted, and give. Elite, we will perform at elite level. Top of class, world class. Trusted, we'll deliver a service that is trusted beyond repute. Like, we will be a trusted beyond everything service. And give, we will be known as an organization that gives. We'll be known as people who give of ourselves in and outside of the business. So elite and trusted and give. That's it. That's the whole business. The reason I say that is, like, from an entrepreneurial perspective, if you're not passionately, even artistically creating value, then I think you're doing people a disservice if you're not creating more value than people are willing to compensate you for. But it is the moral responsibility of those who create incredible value. If you're a practice owner, or if you want to be a practice owner and you're watching this, like I'm speaking to you, like if you're one of those people, if you're doing incredible dentistry, that's great value. Patients should know about it. And if you communicate that well through your story, through your marketing, if you can find a way to communicate how passionately you deliver your value, then people are going to jump on board to compensate you for it as a trade. It's just a trade. They're compensating their dollars for your incredibly passionate artwork. So for me, I think I've always been in love with that concept of how can I authentically, with high integrity, create this incredible artwork of passion through service that attracts people at a high enough level that they are willing to create this trade.
Yeah.
So I don't know if I've ever considered myself an entrepreneur as much as just weirdly being attracted to that equation of value and that trade. I don't know if that makes any sense or if it's too theoretical, but that's what.
Oh gosh, I love that. Now you guys, you have a co-owner there with you, Steven Trotter. Your CEO, and maybe this is not right, but your CEO, he's COO. Tell me a little bit about how you guys, because I'm always fascinated by owners and how they break down their roles and actually what they do. How do you guys kind of segment or divide and conquer? Steven is able to communicate in 10 words what I'll gladly communicate in 100 words. So there's one difference. Fair enough.
It's also, it's fascinating. Sometimes I'm on the phone with him, ironically, that was him calling when I was giving a story about my mom. So if we get on the phone right now and we start talking through an idea that needs to be accomplished, I'll be talking through it and almost like vision casting, dreaming for it. And no joke, 50% of the time before we hang up, he says, okay, no, it's done. I say, it's done? No, we're just casting, we're just putting it together. He's like, no, it's done. Well, I took care of it. It's already finished.
Yeah.
So you ask, what are the differences? The CEO of any organization, for you, for me, for practice owners, the primary goal, the number one responsibility for any CEO is to cast vision for growth. It's the number one responsibility, to cast vision for growth. That doesn't mean we're always trying to grow profits necessarily. It could be growing personally, it could be growing the team, it could be growing your aptitude, your skills, your CE, your clinic, your whatever. Growth, vision for growth. If we're not growing, the old saying, if we're not growing, we're dying, right?
Yeah.
So to cast vision for growth. The organization can only follow vision. Your patients can only follow your vision because it's not done yet. It's in your head. Like, it's just vision until it becomes a reality. So the CEO, number one responsibility is to cast vision for growth. Stephen, man, he is a stud of accomplishment and pursuit. Like, this guy can tackle objectives. So he leads our team of consultants. We're a team of just 15. We're a boutique consulting team, just 15 people. So Stephen leads the key consultants on the team to implement what they do. So Stephen is very direct. I'm very theoretical. And together, it's a really cool combination of this forward-casting vision and this rock-solid implementation as a two-part approach.
Yeah, I love that. Joanne and I were recently having a conversation. I think somebody brought it up. It might be an old Dan Sullivan strategic coach principle, but there's like multipliers and like as leaders, there's multipliers and simplifiers, and like knowing what you are. And to be honest, I'm a CEO, I'm a visionary, but I'm a simplifier. I am let's take something, make it simple. Like, here's the path. I can draw it in boxes. I can go from step 1, step 2. Like, it's real clear. But I got to have people on my team that are just like the multiplier and like making stuff happen and just reproducing. So I kind of love that. Or whether it's visionary, integrator, like some of those roles of knowing what's what. With your
I love the simplifier role, man. Like, I'm a huge Dan Sullivan fan. Also, okay. I was in their program for 3 years. Like, I love that guy. I've had lunch with him multiple times. He's an amazing person, Dan Sullivan. Like, awesome guy. Yeah. I to your point, the people who like simplify. I am so jealous of you and people like you, Josh. Like, I will gladly make things much more complex. Gladly, like that. Like, the people who can do what you do, it's a gift. It's a special gift.
Yeah. Well, I think it's interesting because like you can kind of like set up this image or this like profile, what a visionary CEO is supposed to look like, but sometimes it's just different, and some of these tools are really helpful. Like, are you a visionary? Are you an integrator? Are you a multiplier? Are you a simplifier? And I'm like, I'm a visionary simplifier. But then, like my wife could be a little bit more integrator, multiplier. People are like, well, how does that work? I'm like, it does. Like, that's just kind of, how we function. My business partner is an integrator, simplifier as well. And so it's just kind of giving some language to that to help partnerships, whether it's marriage or business or whatever, just kind of go, here's how I'm unique and here's how we strengthen each other, Mm-hmm. Has that always come easy to you and Stephen, or has that been challenging?
It's actually been really easy. Not because I take responsibility for that. Like, I think it was sort of dumb luck. Like, we sort of fell into each other, and it's an awesome partnership. It's an awesome teamwork. It's awesome collaboration.
Yeah.
I've been very fortunate in many ways in my life. My wife and I have this incredible marriage that she's awesome, like my best friend, and it's so enjoyable to be together the way we get to be together. And with Stephen too, I think recognizing, like you said, naming what those roles are, defining what those roles are, and then letting the other person free to create their genius in that defined space.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful setup when it's right.
Yeah.
I will say, however, I'm finding that do you mind if I talk about partners in dentistry?
Yeah.
I think
I was just going to go there. So yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to cringe a little, just like forewarning. I don't make a lot of friends when I talk about this topic. Effective partnerships in dentistry are a rarity. But generally speaking, I don't know if you've seen this too, Josh, but like, I mean, does this sound right? Most of the time people are like, most doctors who want to become private practice owners, they're attracted to the concept of a partner because they believe it will lower the risk in the business. And they oftentimes will see an opportunity to partner clinically. They think, well, I do crown and bridge really well, and that person does implants and endo really well, that we'd be a great partnership. Have you seen some of that too?
Yeah. No, 100%. It's interesting because I think the best, when I've talked to people, the people that work best with partners, when I go, has it always been easy? How's this work? The best ones just seem to happen. Like what you said was, I think it was just dumb luck. Like we just got together, it worked naturally. The ones that kind of go into it, I don't know, trying to spreadsheet it almost or strategically plan it. I'm kind of like, man, I'm not sure.
I think oftentimes the miss, like you said, the spreadsheet, the calculated attempt to create a partnership, the miss happens to be if this is crown and bridge and this is endo and implants, many doctors would say like, hey, we're a great team, like we'll be able to do this. The miss is that the partnership is not going to be successful because of your clinical differences. That's not what will make a successful partnership. What will make a successful partnership is a differentiation of roles in the business. So what I'm saying is ultimately there must be one final decision maker, not most of the time. I mean, Josh, you've heard of the Fortune 500, right? I mean, right? Who hasn't? So Fortune 500, ready, pop quiz. How many of the Fortune 500 companies, they're the 500 biggest companies in the world, effectively, how many of the Fortune 500 companies do you think have 2 CEOs?
0.
It's just a little bit more. It's 4. It's 4. It's weird. Like what? There's co-CEOs with 4 Fortune 500 companies? It's like, it's a rarity. Which means based on the most successful, smart, profitable businesses in the world, the best 500 of them anyway, it's a good idea to have a co-leader 4 out of 500 times. No, about 1% of the time. And unfortunately, I think there are far too many private practice owners or soon to become private practice owners who are attracted to this concept of partners and partnership for the belief that it will reduce your risk. I am of the very strong opinion that a partnership generally increases risk. How do I know? Well, the failure rate of marriages in the United States is above 50%. And those are partnerships. Like if marriages can't even make it 50% of the time, who are we to say that something more complicated called a business marriage is going to be any easier, right? So, partnerships in dentistry, I've seen it work a couple times, maybe 4 out of 500 times.
No, it's interesting because I also think there's this, I've watched tech firms and Silicon Valley and all that, and there's definitely a running belief or assumption there that if you don't have a partner, like in your startup or your tech company, that actually is a weakness. It's a liability. And I know there's a lot of like venture capital firms. Like if you don't have, usually it's like somebody that's doing the tech part that knows that, the engineering background, and somebody that's got the sales visionary part. And if you don't have that, they're just not going to invest in you. And I think it's just because they're not going to take you seriously if you want to grow. Like they're like, one person in Silicon Valley is not going to be able to manage a company like this for us to invest in. So it's that, I don't know, these conversations have always fascinated me because
like, ready? I'm going to go off screen for a second. In 3, 2, 1.
And he's gone again.
So this book here, Blitz Scaling, is exactly what you're talking about. So Reid Hoffman, right? Blitz Scaling, really cool book. That book is all about like rapidly growing companies and the dissecting and the calculations of how they all work. Rapidly blitz scaling companies. Reid Hoffman, genius guy, really cool book. The reason in Silicon Valley that you should, like, they're going to take you more seriously, the VC guys are going to take you more seriously as an owner if you have a partner, is because that's called rapid acceleration. Like exponential growth requires a lot more than one human has the capacity to handle. However, in dentistry, it's not nearly as high risk. It's not nearly as edge living. Right? We're not going to see as many tech firms succeed as we're going to see dental practices stay in business.
Yeah.
Very different. So for anybody who says, yeah, I'm reading Reid Hoffman's book about blitzscaling, and it's talking about partners and venture capital, and boy, all those things sound really fancy and cool and special. Yeah, but remember, that's a different industry. Like that's tech. In dentistry, we have to apply the things that are effective for dentistry. And in dentistry, most people say, I want to become a practice owner. Actually, I was just talking to one of our clients. I'll just call her Kay. Her name starts with K, but I'll leave her confidential.
Okay.
We just had what's called our vision call. That's like a 3-hour intense planning meeting to kick off the whole strategy for the whole year of building out her startup. So Kay and I were speaking, I think it was last night, maybe 2 nights ago, whatever, through her vision call, this strategic planning session to kick everything off. So on the vision call, we're laying all the pieces out. And crap, you know what? I totally forgot what I was going to say there. I had a really good story, but so let's turn the page. Let's go to something else because I don't remember what I was going to communicate. But she's awesome. So Kay, you know who I'm talking about. You're awesome.
Kay's awesome. Perfect. Dude, tell me about startups through COVID. Like, how were they affected? What are you guys seeing? What were you having to manage with your clients through that?
Yeah, first, I mean, my gosh, at the outset, fear, panic, and what do you call it when people go stiff? Like when they die, it's like rigor mortis.
Yeah.
like
yeah.
It's like everybody got scared stiff, right?
Yeah.
Rigor mortis. That's what it felt like for the first couple weeks, right? Like the stock market. What? Like it went like, and everybody's like, well, how do I pay my thing? And my doors are going to close. Now I need to wear a mask. And what am I going to do? Yeah, totally valid. Scary. And some of our clients were still scheduled to open. And we saw some really cool ways that there's this one guy, David. I'll remember him for the rest of my life. This guy, awesome guy, David in Colorado. He opened his doors in the middle, like smack dab in the middle of the pandemic and the lockdowns.
Yeah.
He's not, I love this guy, but he's not the guy that you'd first point at and say, like, that guy right there, he is the strongest minded, focused, driven guy. Like, you wouldn't say that about him. He's just a cool, calm, chill guy. So he's scheduled to open on a Thursday. That Tuesday, he calls my team, middle of the pandemic, calls my team, and he's like, problem. So we know there's a pandemic, but what's the problem? He said, no. Not only do I have this pandemic thing, I just got fired from my associateship.
Oh man, yeah.
Oh, that's scary. So he's got the stress of the pandemic, and then he's got the stress of losing his job. And to make matters even more stressful, his wife is pregnant 60 days away from being due with their second child. So like the deck is stacked against this guy, emotionally speaking. Middle of the pandemic, he opens his doors, his first day out of the gates, cold scratch startup. He does $4,200 some dollars, close to $4,300.
Wow.
Which is incredible. Like for a startup, to put it in perspective, $4,300 of production in a day, that is the national average for established practices in America. Like that's the average for established, mature, consistent practices in America. And David did that on his very first day with a cold scratch startup in the middle of a freaking pandemic, right? Like, so, and in his own words, he said, it's because I stayed the course. It's because we had 18 months of planning that all built up to that moment. In many ways, I equate it to like almost opening a startup the right way is kind of like loading a catapult. Like you're pulling back, you're pulling back, you're pulling back, you're loading this catapult. And then when it's time to open your doors, it's all preloaded. Like all this pressure and tension is built up, even patient demand. That's why some of our clients are able to open with 100 new patients on their opening day. We've had others, 209 patients on their fourth day or 78 patients by their second day, whatever. It's because this catapult is loaded, and then you cut those ropes and then boom, it goes. And like in the days of castles and knights and kings, the impact is massive. This boulder that you load onto the catapult makes this incredible impact against the wall. And that's why a lot of our startup clients, they're able to go into markets where, some people will say you have to have this beautiful demographics ratio, like the ratio of doctor to population ratio has to be in no, not true. It doesn't have to be this amazing doctor to population ratio.
Yeah.
If you load the catapult the right way over those 18 months, we've had plenty of clients open their doors in an area with demographics that are 25% worse than what the people who have courses will tell you to do. And this catapult launches, and the guy I'm thinking of in the back of my mind, his name is Brian. Brian had $1 million collection practice in his first 12 months, $1 million of collections in a town that had plenty of other dentists with an awful demographics ratio. So to go back to your original question, COVID startups, we're seeing a lot of successes that frankly surprise me. I'm an optimist, but man, some of these stories like $5,000 days right on the heels of COVID, $10,000 days right on the heels of COVID. People who were like open for like 2 weeks before their lockdown, right? So there's some really special opportunities right now for startups because of COVID, almost like in spite of COVID. So there you go. That's what we're seeing.
Do you see with demographics? Here's always been my problem with it. You're the expert in this space. You can kind of tell me if I'm wrong, but I've advised clients this way when they're like, "Hey, am I crazy? This area is X to what, like 1 to 1,500, whatever dentists per capita, and it's so competitive, or 1 to 2,000, whatever that is. And am I crazy?" And my response has always been like, there's a place for demographics, but if you're going to go and build the same thing that everybody else has, then yeah, that's going to be ultra competitive. If you can build something different, you can compete and you can probably win despite what the demographics are. Do you feel like that's fair?
Yes and no. You could have something totally different, but it's like the best kept secret. And you and I know what that's called. That's called a business that has like the best pizza, but no marketing.
Right.
Like, they're not going to be the most successful pizza shop unless they get the word out effectively. No matter how good the pizza is, people need to know about it to come ask for it, right? So there's the aspect of marketing. But I'd also say, I think it's unfortunate that people who like sell courses about startups or like sell demographics reports, like these super like $1,000 PDFs. I don't ever sell PDFs, never have, never will.
Yeah.
They sell these PDFs for like a bunch of money with demographics ratios on them. And it's unfortunately created this culture in dentistry that feels like the demographics ratio is like the cheat code. Yeah. It's like, if I could just get my demographics ratio, all I got to do is go up, up, down, down, left, right, A, B, start, and then poof, I have a successful dental practice because I put in the cheat code of demographics. Yeah. Wrong. Like, so let me give you an example. Let's say you open up in a town that has like a great demographics ratio. Let's pretend that mathematically speaking, this theoretical town of a demographics ratio utopia is 3,000 to 1 ratio. Actually, I can think of a town that we analyzed just recently in a place called The Villages, Florida. You ever hear of The Villages?
No.
The Villages, there's commercials like The Villages. It's in Florida. It's a retirement community. It's like the largest retirement community in the whole United States.
Okay.
If you're a pediatric dentist, it doesn't matter how good the demographics ratio is, you're not going to do well in The Villages. Yeah. It's a retirement community, right? And likewise, that's an extreme example, but let's go to the other extreme. Let's say you're opening up in an area where 50% of the competition is other startups. If 50% of the competition is other startups, that means the whole town is clawing for patients. I can tell you places like some pockets outside of Boston, we've helped some clients open there who have $1 million practices in their first 18 months who have wretchedly bad demographics ratios. Yeah. And some of their competition is like 75 years old and doesn't answer the phone. Right. Well, that's kind of cool because they're certainly not clawing for patients. They're just sitting back losing patients every day. Yeah. So I think, to your point, the demographics ratio, it is a helpful tool. Yeah. To implement a plan. But what's usually missed is many first-time practice owners or people who like to kind of try to DIY it. They're like, oh, the demographics ratio will be my plan. No. The demographic ratio just becomes part of your existing plan, which means you have to have a plan first. And the demographics ratio helps support the strategy for your plan. Yeah. Which is very different from starting with the up, up, down, down cheat code strategy of demographics. You know what game I'm talking about, don't you?
Contra. Contra. Little Gen X right there.
For those who don't know, look up Contra. Nintendo. Yeah. You'll see.
Up, down, down. Yeah. One of the things when I felt like when COVID kind of hit and the whole shutdown, something I kind of felt as I was maybe forecasting down the road was associates in this position where the practice shuts down and just this loss of control, can't see patients. Maybe they have a job when they come back, maybe they don't. And I felt like what that would lead to is associates going, look, okay, I never want to be in this position again. Let's start talking about a startup. Have you guys found that to be true? Like, what have been some of the effects for you guys as a company through this?
So yeah, we've probably gotten more applications, consulting applications for our service in the last 30 days than we have in the last 90 days. It doesn't, because we're a small team, it doesn't change how many we can accept into the program. Like, we're not going to change that. We're good at like 6-7 clients a month, and that's what we're good at. So we're going to stick with that.
Yeah.
But there's this prevailing frustration of associates who maybe didn't even lose their job, but have started to recognize, like, wait a minute, the things that doctor is asking me to do, the owner, I don't know if I agree with that.
Yeah.
Whether it's PPE or whether it's treatment planning in general. I mean, or shoot, like, let's just boil it down to, like, how much longer do you really want to build some other dude's practice?
Right.
Like, how much bigger do you feel like building his net worth? I don't know. Like, you could keep doing it every Monday if you want. How much longer do you want to build his net worth? And a lot of doctors, I think, are having maybe like a little quiet time called quarantine, where they're able to reflect and say, wait a minute, why did I get into this in the first place?
Yeah.
Oh, that's why I was telling you about Dr. K. She was telling us that she's been dreaming of being a practice owner since she was 6 years old.
Okay.
So Dr. K, the one that I blanked on a minute ago. She said, I've been dreaming of being a practice owner and a dentist since I was 6 years old. I was like, what? Do you have a parent as a dentist? Like, is your mom a dentist or something? No, that's what I wanted to do at 6. What? That's awesome. So now, like, she's 3 years out of her associateship. She's like, I worked for a DSO for 2 years, freaking hated it. And then I worked for a private practice owner, another woman. This is why I have to leave her name. Part of the reason I have to leave her name is she worked for a private practice owner for 1 year. She's like, I'm over it. This doctor, like, she's so non-confrontational with the employees. Like, I think things need, this Dr. K, I think things need to be addressed with these employees. I would care for these employees and coach these employees in a wildly different way. The way that the senior doctor is doing it's destructive to the patient relationships. And I think right now, Josh, maybe you and I are both seeing this. So many associate dentists are saying, I had time to reflect. I didn't have to do the commute. I got to be with my family and put my kids to bed every night. Wouldn't it be cool if I could set my own schedule? Wouldn't it be awesome if I could take the CE that I felt like taking and actually do the procedures that I felt like doing in my own practice on my terms? I think there are a lot of associate dentists who are realizing that they don't want more time to pass, and they don't want to deal with any more regret of feeling like they've been missing out on those opportunities. So that's what we're seeing.
Yeah. No, I think that's so true. In some ways, I felt like the practices that were scheduled to open July, August, September, October, I feel like they were in such a good position with this. I kind of felt like what's going to happen is they reopen. Existing practices have the summer full of appointments already. Plus, we've got 8 to 12 weeks of appointments that we have to reschedule, which limits new patient blocks. New patients are having trouble getting in, or they're being told August or September, and they're like, I don't know that I want to do that. And yet you've got this like new startup happening, and they can kind of start with a clean slate with all this new protocol and all that. I feel like it was an ideal time. They got low staff, lower overhead to some extent. It's just much more nimble and agile and could adjust. I feel like it was those that are opening during the summer, fall, I think is ideal for sure.
Yeah, practices who are opening like anytime, like 2 months ago, all the way through these next 6 months, I totally agree with you. This is like startup bonanza right now. It is bonkers. It's nuts. So we've referred to this with our clients as the patient waterfall.
Okay.
There's this waterfall of patients at existing practices that are 5, 10, 15 years old. There's this waterfall of patients. It's like a waterfall going into a cup of an existing practice. This cup is full. And as the waterfall keeps coming, these patients keep coming, and they're just falling out over the edges. It's spilling, and it's making a horrible mess all over the place. Startups are there to say, hey, listen, like, we got space, we got time, come on in. You don't have to wait, Josh, to your point. You don't have to wait 6 months for your next pro fee. Like, how about 6 minutes?
Yeah.
Right now, come on in, not 6 months. Waterfall patient, come on in. And what's fascinating is the patients who were part of Old Man Joe's practice down the street, they're coming into a startup and saying, whoa, wait, this is a dental office?
Dentistry, right.
What? There's like this awesome drink bar, and there's this cool flavor, and there's this like great, like, it smells good, and it's not 150 years old. This place is amazing, right? Those startups who are capturing that opportunity are exploding. But I should make something really clear. I said opportunity. Opportunity is very different from opportunism. Those are wildly different concepts. Opportunity is awesome. Opportunism is beneath the profession, beneath who we are as an industry. Opportunism is taking advantage of someone else's bad situation. Opportunity is serving your community at a higher level when they're ready for you, and being prepared to serve them at that space. And there are incredible opportunities right now that are high integrity, that are ethical, that are good, that serve your community, that are uniquely available to startups right now. Right now, I've never seen as many great opportunities for startups in terms of growth, and I've never seen as many opportunities for startups right now in terms of cost control, like savings, major 6-figure savings for startups all across the country right now. Really interesting times we're in right now.
Yeah, for sure. Man, look, I appreciate you being on here. I got a couple more questions before I let you go, because I know we all got a lot going on for sure. Let's play a little game of highs and lows. During COVID, personally, COVID shut down for you, high point, low point.
Low point for me was rigor mortis. Like, me, myself, I, and everybody else on the planet, like, oh, crap, scary.
Yeah.
That was probably low point. High point was daddy-daughter date with my daughter. I told you before we started recording that we were like trapped on my property. Like, we had the most restrictive quarantine in the country. We're literally trapped on our piece of real estate, not legally allowed to leave the space except for medical appointments. And I hadn't had daddy-daughter dates with my daughter Sienna in probably a few years. She's a preteen, and it's like, oh, these moments are slipping away.
Yeah.
For me, during quarantine, I was like, now's the best time. Like, everybody else is like, the phone's not ringing, everybody's taking time, everybody's quiet. So I said, hey, Sienna, what do you say we do a daddy-daughter date up on the balcony overlooking the water, and we just have a daddy-daughter date tonight? She's like, how? We don't have any food. I said, it's okay. We'll make some cupcakes, and we have icing in the closet, so we'll just make our icing. And so we had daddy-daughter date out there. And Josh, man, I got to tell you, like, I don't know if we've ever had like as sweet of a experience together. It was simple. I told her, why don't you come with 3 questions for me, and I'll come with 3 questions for you, and we'll just have a nice chat. And it was awesome.
Yeah.
I think for a lot of us, it's been like that. For those who were willing to like take those moments and say, what can I make good out of this really weird situation? I think we're all going to look back on these moments and say that these were some of the richest times of our lives, when things felt scariest if we took the opportunity. So that was one of the best moments for me.
Oh my gosh, I love that, because I think I know how challenging that was. There was a sense of like, I think when it first shut down, I was like, okay, everybody's gonna have all this time, and what are we gonna do? And I quickly realized, that's some people. That was not our company to, I mean, like, maybe we could have, but it was like, oh no, we got to hustle. And I think that workload and that intensity, that emotional, mental intensity was huge. And so even though like I was home and not traveling, there was a couple of weeks where it was like the mental energy and emotional energy. I mean, I was like, it was just spent, But you're right. Like as soon as it kind of started to go, okay, this is like a new normal, and you still have to prioritize what matters most and look for the opportunities. You're right. There's some really like just significant moments that came out of that for sure with just family. And yeah, for me, I think just stopping for a bit, no travel, no nothing was
Well, you and I are both friends with Reese Harper, a guy that I think both of us respect quite a bit.
Yeah.
And Reese just recently posted something. He said, the challenges of being an entrepreneur is sometimes you're working real hard all day and all night for this thing to serve more people. And he said, I had one of those experiences where it felt like even the little time I spent with my family that day was a net negative.
Yeah.
And, awesome for Reese to just be that raw, net negative with your family. Like the byproduct of the time with his family felt like a net negative. And I can relate to that, been there, like absolutely. And I think that word is that phrase net negative is so powerful and poignant, so that when we have these opportunities, we can remember, I don't want it to be a net negative. I have a choice here. I'm going to turn the other stuff off mentally, psychologically, technologically, and be here.
Yeah.
I'm choosing to be here with a cupcake and icing on the balcony with my daughter.
Yeah.
So best part, that was by far the best part for me.
I love it. All right. Last question. Tomorrow night's Friday night, end of a long work week. You're chilling out at home. What are you ordering? What are you eating? What are you drinking?
I don't know. Normally there's a beer here called Medalla that I really like.
Okay.
Like a little bit of cinnamon. It's like this, it's a light beer that doesn't feel like a light beer. So that's really good. And there's a pizza place called Chincho's. We can drive our little golf cart to this little pizza joint right down the street and like come back up to our house and have it right here. I'd probably have that.
Yeah.
But more likely than not, I'll just make some dinner for the family and we'll like have family movie night upstairs in the loft. But yeah, I don't know. It'll be family time for sure.
Do you like getting around in the kitchen?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wish I was better, but I can make a mean PB&J.
You probably have had plenty of opportunities to improve your culinary skills over the last couple of months, I'm sure. Oh man. Oh, cool. Hey, look, I appreciate you being here. If people out there want to get to know, reach out, get in touch with you, get to know what you guys are doing more, where's the best place for them to connect?
First of all, I think like ask people who know me about me, like ask Josh, like if you're interested in connecting with me about startups, first go to Josh, because I could tell you whatever I want to tell you, but Josh would tell you what he's seen from our clients.
Yeah.
Or speak to other clients. I actually just saw a post on Facebook. Somebody said, hey, I've seen this Ideal Practices company. Has anybody ever worked with them before? And he said, that was interesting. He said, I'm not looking for people to say, I know a guy who blah, blah, blah. He said, no, I'm looking for people who've actually worked with Ideal Practices. And I like incredibly grateful. Like I pour myself out and my team would lay in traffic for our clients. It is really special to see when the people you care so much about, whose success you would like run through a brick wall for them to succeed. It's really cool when you see those people comment on a post like that and say, changed my life, 100%. They saved me this. They did this for, like, that team is incredible. They'll do everything for you. Oh my gosh, game changers. So I would say, sure, like hit me up on Facebook, whatever, or send me an email if you want. If you want to hear my thoughts, as you can tell, like I joked earlier, like I'll gladly use 100 words if I can instead of 10. There's we created a masterclass that describes this kind of startup paradigm that we've helped express in dentistry. It's all built on practice, profits, and purpose. Those three words encapsulate the entire strategy that we roll out with our clients: practice, profits, and purpose, and the harmony between those. So we created a masterclass. It's an audio masterclass that describes the flow of those, called Startup Dentist Podcast. So it's technically on a podcast platform. It's totally free, but it's a masterclass style. It's very sequential, systematic delivery of how this practice, profits, purpose, a methodology works to create these incredible game-changing startups across the country. So Startup Dentist Podcast, or hit me up on Facebook, or ask Josh if about me. There you go. How's that?
Yeah, look, man, I'll tell everybody here, but when I get on the phone with an ideal practice startup, number one, I tell them, I say, hey, look, I really, there's a couple other organizations out there, but I said, I really like Jayme, really like Steven. I typically tend to do business with people that I trust and that I like. I'm like, number two, and this is usually somebody who maybe has just started with you guys or is kind of down the road a little bit, but just reinforcing, I say, you made a good decision. I don't know that I see a more predictable path for startup success than I do with Ideal. So for whatever reason, like I feel like every single one I see is just that first year, like they hit that mark. It's success. It's not even that. It's like health, and it's just like this stability. I highly recommend you guys. I think startups would be crazy. What you said earlier, you use that illustration of a catapult, but I think you're right. It's like when you prep right for 18 months or 12 months or 24, whatever that is, not even a pandemic can slow that down. So do it right, get the right organization, prep right, prepare. There's not going to be a whole lot that can stop your success if you do that. So
thank you for the kind words. I'm incredibly passionate about startups, and Josh, the fact that you and I get to sync up on this stuff with helping people express their story and help people get their message out through an effective way of communicating that to their community it's really special. So thanks for having me on to have a conversation.
Yeah, thanks for taking the time. I totally appreciate it. Guys, check out Jayme, reach out to him if you want to connect with him, and we'll see you on the next episode.